Hello guys and welcome to Man Discovers Tech. Today I'm going to compare three speakers, the Edifier Luna HD E25, the Audioengine A2 and the M-Audio BX3. Watch this review to see my thoughts on what is best. If you could like the video and subscribe to this channel, you'd really help me out guys, thank you. Design and unboxing. The Edifier is by far my favourite design. I think it looks very attractive wherever you put it, but especially on my desk I think it looks better than the other two speakers. The Audioengine is also a very nice looking speaker. It's a bit smaller than the Edifier and the M-Audio BX3, but actually the Edifier actually fits better on my desk compared to the Audioengine and takes up even less width. The M-Audio BX3 is the largest and least attractive of the three. Edifier and Audioengine opted for a higher quality fit and finish with their models, and I think the M-Audio BX3 did not really have any special materials to brag about, which is understandable considering the price point and the target market. Features. The Edifier Luna is a very stylish speaker made by the Chinese firm Edifier. What I really liked about this speaker is that it has dual passive 3-inch radiators on the back of the speaker, which actually really enhances the bass considering the cabinet size. It has silk dome tweeters which enables the treble unit to produce some detailed treble. Again, especially at the price point, it was quite impressive. Edifier says it produces 74 watts RMS, which I highly doubt. It also has Bluetooth connectivity on board, and it has touch controls on the side of the speakers which are quite responsive. Frequency response is claimed to be from 50 Hz up to 20 kHz. The Audioengine A2 is also a nice looking speaker made by the American firm Audioengine. It's a bass reflex design with a front slotted port. It has Class AB amplification, 2.75-inch Aramid woofers, 0.75-inch silk dome tweeters, Bluetooth 3.5mm in, and there is an ability to connect a subwoofer via the RCA inputs. Frequency response is claimed to be from 65 Hz all the way up to 22 kHz plus or minus 2 dB. Audioengine say that the finish on these speakers is furniture grade, but I don't quite understand what constitutes furniture grade, so I was a little bit confused by that. Audioengine also say the critical components of these speakers were all made 100% in-house. These speakers are meant to have a peak output of 30 watts per channel and 15 watts RMS per channel. The M-Audio BX3 is the cheapest of these three speakers, coming in at under £100, which is more than half the price of the Audioengine. It has 3.5-inch Kevlar drivers, soft dome tweeters, balanced and unbalanced inputs on the back, bass and treble dials for dialing in your sound, an acoustically inner MDF cabinet, but we don't really know how thick it is from what I could see. But what is one of the best features of this speaker is the tweeter waveguide this unit has, which is meant to make the trebles a lot more precise. M-Audio also says these speakers have 120 watt total output. RMS output is meant to be 25 watt per channel. The frequency range is 80 Hz all the way up to 22 kHz. Sound quality. As well as listening to music, I ran 3 tests to get an understanding of this speaker's capabilities. First, I did a frequency sweep. Next, I listened to some Battlefield 5 gameplay. Finally, I listened to how these speakers coped with a THX sound demo. On the frequency sweep, it was obvious that the Edifier Luna had an onboard DSP because the bass was pretty solid all the way down to 50 Hz. That's impressive considering this speaker's size, and I think most people would agree that there isn't really any need for a subwoofer if they're on your desk. In the gameplay test, the impressively large bass translated to a nice overall sound, very pleasant on the ears, explosions sounded very impressive, and at times I really thought there was a subwoofer in the room. Very high, sharp sounds were also handled very well by the Edifier, and I didn't really get any ear fatigue at all, even at close listening positions and at high volumes in games. The THX test showed that the Luna was very capable of handling its own with bass effects. These are only little speakers, but they sounded very grown up to my ears, The DSP on this thing worked wonders and really helped the speaker sound bigger than it truly was. On the frequency sweep, the Audioengine A2 Plus did the job you would expect. It doesn't have any DSP running, so you're hearing these speakers as they are. To be honest, considering the rave reviews these things get, I wasn't impressed at all with the sound. I thought they sounded as they looked, which was small. The bass was very hollow, especially compared to the Edifier, and everything just sounded wrong. Even when hearing these on the frequency sweep, I could tell they weren't going to be any good in the other tests. On the gameplay test, I thought that the Audioengines had a very bright, sharp and tinny sound. The bass effects either weren't there or they just sounded hollow. I really didn't like the bass at all, and I kept feeling that I needed a subwoofer. You can connect a subwoofer up if you want to, and that would be my recommendation. Even then, even without the subwoofer, I didn't think these sounded like hi-fi speakers at all. If we're concerning ourselves with fidelity, I didn't think the mids were very special. I didn't think the trebles were very special. I didn't think the soundstage was very good. I think it was actually quite unrefined compared to what I'm used to when I listen to hi-fi equipment. And I know these aren't true hi-fi speakers, but the marketing team behind Audioengine, behind these speakers, they seem to suggest these speakers are hi-fi speakers, which I would definitely disagree with. The M-Audio BX3 sounded like a very grown-up speaker by comparison. On the frequency sweep, it rolled off around 70 to 80 Hz, which is what we would expect without any DSP enabled. However, the rest of the frequencies were completely flat and the trebles weren't fatiguing at all. In the gameplay test, I was very impressed with the M-Audios. The sound field really opened up compared to the other two speakers, and while the bass quantity wasn't as much as the Edifier, the bass quality seemed a bit better to my ears. I was really impressed with the separation I was hearing and the layers within the soundtracks. I would definitely say the BX3 had the best soundstage and imaging of the three speakers, and that's what we would expect, as these are really near-field studio monitors by design. In the THX test, the bass effects were not as enjoyable to listen to compared to the Edifier, so for watching movies overall, I would say the Edifier is the better speaker. But if you are concerned about speech intelligibility, having a vast open soundscape, then the M-Audio BX3 is probably better for movies. If you can match it with a nice subwoofer, I think it would be unbeatable at this price point. One thing I will say about the M-Audios is that they are very loud compared to the other speakers. Literally 1/4 turn of the dial and your ears are blowing off. And this thing has got some strong amplification, so I'd be very careful using these, because if you turn them up too much, you could easily damage your woofers. Things I did not like about these three speakers. Let's start with the Edifier Luna. There wasn't much I did not like about these speakers. If I had to be critical, it would be nice to have the option to hear these speakers in stock mode without the DSP enabled. The Luna has both DSP and dynamic compression enabled as standard, which means that it's effectively reducing the dynamic range you hear from the soundtrack. That's not such an issue if it's at your desk, as you can't take too much dynamic range when you are near field anyway, but yeah, to be honest, the Edifier did have an effect on the soundstage, and you could tell it was less vast compared to something like the M-Audio. It would be nice if there were some more connections on the back as well. For example, I didn't see a dedicated subwoofer out connection. The Audioengine, yeah, I was really disappointed with these speakers when you consider the hype and the fact that, you know, I was really looking forward to reviewing these speakers. I've actually been following the Audioengine for, it must be about a decade now, and to hear these speakers was a real downer for me. It was like a complete anticlimax for me. The bass wasn't there at all, even though people claim that they've got good bass and they sound bigger than what they are. I personally think they don't sound bigger than what they are. The trebles were too sparkly as well, too brash. The mids were very unrefined. They didn't sound realistic at all. The background hiss on the Audioengines as well, that's another thing. The background hiss was the worst compared to the other two speakers. I honestly thought that hiss wouldn't be a problem on such an expensive set of small speakers, but I was wrong. So I would not get these if background hiss bothers you. Also, in terms of the design choice, the soft dome tweeter had no guard, so you have to be very careful handling these speakers, otherwise you could push the tweeter in very easily. The M-Audios I think were very good speakers, in fact fantastic speakers for the money. They're over half the price of the other two speakers. They easily sound the best, but they're not faultless. Firstly, they get very hot indeed. Even after 30 minutes to 1 hour of use, I could clearly feel the heat radiating to my face on the desk, and this is enough to put me off buying them because yeah, I don't have air conditioning and I don't like sweating, to tell you the truth. Also, I understand these are studio monitor speakers, and these did have some background hiss, but it wasn't audible all the time. It was the least problematic of the speakers, definitely, but the hiss was still there. I think background hiss shouldn't really be a problem at all with a set of studio monitors. Even if these are entry-level studio monitors, I don't think it's something I can forgive. Overall feeling. My overall feeling is that the M-Audios were the best for sound quality. If that's what you want at a cheap price, then get the M-Audios. But for my needs, I would be perfectly happy with the Edifier speakers because they look very classy, they have a nice pleasing bass. It is far from audiophile bass, but it's fun and it's never overbearing. It is cheaper than the Audioengine and it looks better, it sounds smoother, and it has a bigger sound with less hiss. The Audioengine was the biggest letdown I've had on this channel to date, and that's just because I had really big hopes for this speaker. They claim to have put a lot of resources into making this speaker, like the marketing gimmick about the 18mm thick MDF, but you don't even get hi-fi speakers that have MDF that thick. So why would you put 18mm thick MDF in such a small cabinet? And the M-Audios, by comparison, when you knock on the cabinet, they sounded like they didn't have very thick MDF at all. So why is it that the M-Audio sounded so much better than the Audioengines? Just goes to show you that cabinet construction is not as important on a small speaker as people have you believe. Personally, I think these Audioengine speakers are aimed at people who think they want something high fidelity, but they haven't really heard high fidelity before in their life. If you're experienced with speakers and you're experienced with hi-fi, you will know immediately that these Audioengines are not special speakers at all. So yeah, that's the end of my review. I apologise if some of you are offended by my thoughts on the Audioengine speakers. I still think that what I said is pretty fair, even though it might have come across as a little bit too aggressive. But yeah, that's what I think about these speakers. The Edifier were very surprising to me. I would recommend these to people. I think a lot of people will like their sound. And the M-Audios, I feel, were the most grown up of the three speakers. What do you think? Leave your comments in the section below. If you have any questions, maybe I've missed something in this review and you have a question for me, let me know in the comments and I will get back to you. Thank you.